At the beginning of the movie, we are introduced to the nurse Gwen, who enters the ward to an elderly patient. The frightened woman is happy to see the heroine and asks to take her home. Suddenly, the patient begins to suffocate and asks to increase the air supply. However, Gwen does the exact opposite, watching the woman suffering with a smile. Resuscitation manages to bring the patient to her senses, but the heroine is not at all touched by this. The action moves to the elite and well-furnished house of a young couple. Todd, getting ready for work, looks into the kitchen and sees that his wife Mira is cooking appetizing pancakes. Despite the fact that the couple has given up cooking, the girl wants to continue to please her husband and son with food prepared with love. Unexpectedly, their son Max, who moves on crutches, appears in the kitchen. Mira asks him to be careful, but the boy replies that if he falls, he can get up. Max welcomes his nanny, Gwen, and is very happy to see her. The girl apologizes to the boy for her absence, saying that she had to visit a friend. The family, along with the nanny, sits down to breakfast. Mira tells her son that he can eat pancakes, as they are made with gluten-free flour. In addition, the woman reveals that Dr. Keller called about a new medication for Max. Meanwhile, Todd is chatting very nicely with Gwen, and jokingly calls her the girl of his dreams. Suddenly, the man remembers that he has an important meeting with investors at 9 o'clock, so he has to run. The nanny watches with displeasure as Todd says goodbye to his wife. In the afternoon, Mira is visited by her friend, Karen. The woman tells her that Gwen has gotten along well with her son, and sometimes she feels that she has gotten along too well. Mira feels like a bad mother, and she feels like her nanny looks at her with judgment. However, she declines Karen's offer to hire a new caregiver. Their conversation is overheard by Gwen. Suddenly, Max is heard screaming outside. Mira rushes to him and sees that the boy has fallen and hit his arm. The woman yells at Gwen, but the nanny says his crutch just broke. Mira calls Dr. Keller, though the nurse thinks it's not necessary. Max, upon hearing his diagnosis of muscular dystrophy, gets upset and says it's not true, and that's what Gwen said. Mira is angry at the nanny again, and asks her not to mislead her son. In the evening, the woman apologizes to Gwen for her behavior. The heroine asks not to worry about it. She realizes that the blame for everything is fear for her child. Seeing Mira's condition, Gwen offers to make healing tea for her and prepare dinner. The next day, the woman meets with the parents of children with muscular dystrophy. Mira tells them that she is very worried about Max and feels like a bad mother. Back home, the woman runs into Gwen, who brings her hot tea. After drinking it, Mira falls asleep, and the nanny meets Dr. Keller, who has arrived. The woman says she has brought new crutches for Max, and is very surprised to learn that both he and his mother are asleep. Gwen's face seems very familiar to Dr. Keller, but she can't remember where she has seen her before. In the evening, the heroine goes to visit a woman. Gwen says she remembers where they met and suddenly injects Dr. Keller with a strange drug. The heroine reveals that they saw each other at the hospital when she was trying to take the life of an elderly patient. Dr. Keller asks why she attacked her, and Gwen replies that it gives her a sense of superiority. The nurse doesn't want anyone to come between her and her family, so she just walks away, leaving Dr. Keller to live out her last moments. During the night, Mira gets a call from David telling her that he saw her at a support group meeting today. The man says that his son has been found to have the same disease and it is very hard to accept. However, he is greatly helped by his home nurse, especially since the passing of his spouse. David asks Mira not to bury herself, as she is doing everything possible for Max. However, the role of the man is actually played by Gwen, sitting in the other room. The next morning, Karen comes to visit the family. She accidentally spills juice on Todd's shirt. Gwen says she can take the shirt to the laundry. Mira is feeling weird about the weather, so Karen decides she will bring the samples from her office herself. On the way, she notices Gwen sniffing Todd's shirt. During the night, the nurse calls Mira again on David's behalf. The woman says she's been feeling kind of weird for the past week. Gwen advises to seek help from the home nurse or to take a break and rest. Mira suddenly hears a slightly explicit suggestion from David, and immediately the nurse appears in the kitchen, snidely inquiring about the lady's new acquaintance. The woman is about to wash the dishes when Gwen suddenly snatches the detergent from her hands as it is too strong. Mira yells at the nurse and then makes excuses. Gwen runs into Todd on the stairs and tells him about David. This story does not impress the man, but the story about the detergent is disturbing. At parting, Gwen hugs Todd, planting doubts in him about his own wife. In the morning, the man comes into the kitchen and complains to the nanny that Mira still hasn't woken up. Gwen says she made 2 different breakfasts and got up at 5 in the morning to do so. This conversation is heard by Mira, who comes downstairs. Todd asks his spouse to get more rest, and Gwen carefully brings tea for her. In the afternoon, Mira receives a call from Karen, thanking her for the flowers she gave her. However, the woman realizes that she did not order them. As she leaves the room, she notices Gwen and realizes that a nurse did it. Mira suddenly passes out on the stairs and asks not to tell Todd about it. Gwen offers to draw her blood and take it to the hospital for analysis. In the evening, Mira complains to David that the nurse has started doing almost everything around the house since that mistake with the detergent. When Todd goes to tuck Max in, the woman wants to go with them, but unexpectedly falls asleep before she can open the message about David being a cheater. In the morning, Todd reads it and is alarmed that his wife is back to sleeping all day. Gwen reassures Mira and tells her that she just needs another day off. The woman decides to go to work after all, and tells Karen that nothing was found in her blood. A friend advises to take another test, as she has a strange premonition. Mira receives another message in the mail, which says that David is a crook and her son is in danger. The woman decides to consult about meeting the stranger with Gwen, and their conversation is overheard by Todd. At the meeting, Mira meets the real David, who tells her that he doesn't have a sick child, but had a wife who stopped going to chemotherapy, most likely because of the same person who was now communicating on his behalf. Todd watches his spouse and sees her cuddling with another man. Meanwhile, Gwen is visited by Karen, who has decided to give the layouts to Mira. After learning that she is not at home, her friend decides to talk to the caregiver. Karen warns that if Gwen is determined to separate the family, she will have to deal with her. As her friend is about to leave, the nurse stuns her with a vase and proceeds to clean up. David returns to the hotel and is followed relentlessly by Todd, who suspects his wife of cheating. The man calls Gwen and says that he no longer believes Mira. The girl asks him to go back to work, and she injects Karen with the same drug as Dr. Keller. In the evening, Mira receives a message from her husband saying that he will be back late. Gwen stealthily takes the knife from the table and informs that she is also leaving the family to go on a date. The girl arrives at David's house and tells him that she was the one who destroyed his spouse when she was their nurse. The man is ready to get even with her for it, but Gwen does it faster. When Todd returns home, Mira is long since asleep. Gwen sees that the man has been drinking and offers to take him upstairs to the bedroom. The girl tries to kiss Todd, but the man pushes her away and asks her to go downstairs, as they all need rest. The next morning, Gwen lies to Todd that he confessed his love to her during the night. The nurse offers the man breakfast at the cafe while she looks after Max and Mira. Meanwhile, the woman wakes up on the couch again. Reading David's messages and the inscription on the glass, Mira suddenly begins to suspect that it is all the intrigue of her nurse. The woman pours out the rest of the tea and finds strange particles in it. In Gwen's room, she finds many strange preparations, as well as books on medicine. Now Mira does not want to trust her son's nurse, much less drink anything from her hands. The woman returns to Gwen's room and records the video as evidence. Mira then rushes to the police and calls Todd, saying that they are all in great danger because of the nurse. Suddenly, Gwen appears at the door and asks why the woman isn't in bed. Mira tries to explain herself when she suddenly notices red spots on the nurse's cheek. The woman tries to escape, but Gwen blackmails her by telling her that she is Max. Mira agrees to go with the nurse to see her son, and hopes her husband takes her words seriously and can help them. Gwen swears the boy is fine, she wouldn't hurt him. Along the way, the caregiver says that she has cared for many families, but it was with Todd and Max that she realized she had found her home. Mira, on the other hand, had been neglectful of the family, neglecting her son and texting another man at night. Meanwhile, Todd arrives home and finds his wife's cell phone, in which she accuses Gwen and produces evidence. Once there, the nurse reveals that she massacred Dr. Keller, Karen and David, all just to protect the family, but Mira would never have been able to do something like that. The woman takes to looking for Max, but realizes he's not inside. Laughing, Gwen tells her that she fooled the woman, her son is still in physical therapy where he should be. The nurse is ready to make it look like Mira destroyed David by arguing with him at the motel. Gwen thinks up a whole story, at the end of which the woman decided to take her own life, because that's what she's going to tell the cops so that she can always be with Max and Todd. The nurse is sure that Mira hated staying at home with her son, so she will become the best mother for the boy. The woman realizes that she has fallen into the hands of a madwoman and tries to escape. A confrontation ensues between the nurse and Mira. The woman does not stop fighting and stuns Gwen with a teapot. Crying, she runs out of the house and goes to Max and Todd. After a while, the family is having a wonderful time together. Max says that he is glad that his mother now sleeps less and enjoys life more. This is the end of the movie. Thank you all for watching this video to the end. Give this video a like. Write in the comments what you think about this movie, and see you in new videos.